What's going on, guys? This is Danny from Slow Restoration, and we have Vince.
I am the new shopkeep here.
Shopkeep. He's going to clean this mess up.
This is a little ridiculous. I think we're going to get this sorted out.
But Vince is here, and we're going to pull his 2018
350R
Shelby,
Yep.
350R Mustang in. We're doing lowering springs, camber plates, and braided brake lines. So let's get in this door, get up on this lift, and get started. I can't believe we got a Mustang coming in. Vince is that guy. He's got to rev his car in the garage. There you go. Open them valves up. No. Our first task is to get this thing high enough so the lift fits under it. So we jacked it up and put these probably 5-inch blocks under it. So now we got plenty of room for the lift arms. First matter of business is get these front wheels off. There, you got it. Man, the size of that rotor. So all 4 wheels off. Now it's time to tackle these struts. Get these top strut mounts loose. And I believe we have to take these 2 bolts here for the strut pinch bolt off the spindle. And there's a sway bar end link on there too, will get removed. So to take the caliper off, what is that? A T60 Torx bit, that one and that one. We have the nuts pulled out of the jam bolts. We put the nuts on backwards and just make them flush with the head of that bolt. And we're going to take a hammer and knock them out. They are knurled on the other side. So once we get them popped out, I'll show you what I mean. All right, we got those knocked off. We'll back the nuts off and we will pull the bolt out and let it fall on the ground.
I got that. Oh, you broke it. Completely broken.
So that is a knurl. Right there. Spline.
Spline. That's what I'm trying to see.
Yeah. We got those bolts pulled out. Now we're going to back the sway bar end link nut off. We're going to need a wrench to hold that. So after using a 17 millimeter wrench to hold that, you can back that right out. So now all we're left with down here is these electrical connections, and we'll move up top. So back up top now, there's a small rubber cap. We'll just pop, set over here. We don't need to mess with that yet, but there's 1, 2, 3 studs with nuts on it we need to loosen up, and that will allow the whole strut assembly to drop down and out. A spring compressor of some sort. We have this clamshell type. We need to compress this coil spring, take this center nut off the strut, releases this top bearing, and we can disassemble that, put our lowering spring in, and put our adjustable camber plates as we go back together. Once we compress that spring far enough, like I said, pop that down, take this nut off the center, releases this bearing, we slide off, and the spring comes right off with it. So we have our adjustable camber plates here, and Steeda does send with them step-by-step instructions, which could be very handy if you have never did it before. They're in color and they seem to be pretty detailed, tell you what size socket and everything like that. So definitely handy to have.
Well, we got the fronts off. We're about to put the
So Vince is on the phone
and,
to Steeda now, and apparently the Steeda springs do not lower an R, maybe at the very most a 1/4 inch. So they will improve performance because they're stiffer, but as far as lowering, about a 1/4 inch on a 350R, which is fine because it's that low anyway, but Vince is a little disappointed.
Okay.
Both springs are done. We got everything put back together. Now we're ready to slide these up in the car. So once you pop the strut up through, This is obviously your camber plate, so your strut is very adjustable at this point. You drop a washer and a nylock nut on these 3 studs. We're just going to leave it loose for now. We'll put the car back up in the air, back underneath. We're just going to lift this up. We can spin this strut. Vince is going to show us how it's done.
Well, yeah, we're going to pretend I know what I'm doing right now. I just pinched my thumb.
Perfect. With these lined up, you're going to take these bolts and jam them back through. We're not quite lined up. We got to come out a little bit. There you go. That one. You want to grab that one?
Come on, baby.
Talk to it.
There we go. That's your home. That's where you want to go.
We'll spin these nuts back on and we'll torque them down. And then we'll start working on the rest of this stuff, reconnecting it. So once we have that, we'll reconnect these end links and we're just gonna push them back, slide them through. And we are gonna use some red Loctite on these end link studs. So we'll get some of that on there and torque that down. The pinch bolt gets torqued to 184 foot-pounds. We got that done on both sides. Now we're gonna move up and torque down the sway bar end link. Sway bar end link to strut is 85 foot-pounds. The only other thing we have to do down here besides put the rotor and caliper back on is hook all of our connections back. So there's a bunch of little pop clips. We'll pop them all back in. You got that tight yet?
Where's Steve at? Just use the gun. Done.
Moving on to the back, so we removed, according to Vince, 2 bolts, but it was actually 8.
I think
So
his counting is wrong, but I believe it was 2.
sway bar end link, we removed that. There's a subframe bolt here we loosened up. There's a subframe bolt here, and there's 2 more there. And then on this shock, actually, 2 lower and 2 upper. So that's 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, but in the end of the 2.
It's 8. So with those loose, we have a pole jack under to support the subframe. You can actually just kind of pull down on this, and that gets plenty enough room to pull that spring out and replace the front. It was simple. Just make sure your spring is rotated around so it hits the isolators in the correct space. So with your springs back in place and indexed correctly, you put that bolt back in, that bolt back in, these 2 bolts back in per side. And then, like Vince is doing, we fish our shock back up through.
Is this shock facing the right way?
Yes, it is. And let me give him a hand. All right, get this Mustang out of the shop, would you?
You know what? The cars were getting a little jealous.
Yeah. All right, we got Vince out of here. He's headed back home in the Mustang. The Shelby GT350 is definitely a cool car. Any Shelby, if it carries the Shelby nameplate, it's definitely going to be a pretty awesome car. So, except for like the 80s Dodge Shelbys, they weren't much. But a Shelby Mustang is definitely going to be cool. So check out his channel too. It's Tunnel Chaser. Now we need to get this back over here and really try and get this thing finished. We've kind of spent a lot of time on this, and like Vince was saying, we're gonna have some fun projects come in here real soon, some kind of crazy projects. So we need to get this finished up and make some time and room for those projects. So thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.